And here we go. Hey YouTube, what's going on? JT's Reborn here, and welcome to the third review in the Mummy Trilogy, or actually this one right here. In this video, we're going to talk about The Mummy Tomb of the Dragon Emperor, starring Jet Li, Brendan Fraser, and John Hannah from the first movie. And then after that, they recasted like everybody, and it's a real shame. But you know what? I haven't seen this movie in a while. I'm going to give it a fair chance to see if it still holds up, and yeah, definitely, it was definitely my least favorite of the three movies, but I remember enjoying it for what it was. So let's put it in, let's watch it, see if it holds up. I got my snacks and stuff, got the delicious Twinkie, and yeah, let's see how it goes. And here we go. Hey everybody, welcome into After the Movie, retro edition, I guess. I'm sitting on my comfy chair here. I just got done rewatching the final film in the Mummy trilogy, not counting like this, not overall series, because if you include the spin-off series, but the final film in the Mummy trilogy, The Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. Rawr, I'm the mummy. I'm gently. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so anyways, what do I think of this movie after rewatching it? It's okay. It's not a good movie. It's not a bad movie. It's just okay. I mean, it was cool to see Rick O'Connell back, but and then I guess Jonathan. But after that, the appeal is kind of worn thin. I can see why like they didn't really continue the series after this. Granted, I would have liked another one, but the direction they went with, it just wasn't as good as the first two. We'll just say that. So I remember being hyped when I first saw the trailer for this movie, and I saw it. I'm like, oh sweet, we got Rick O'Connell back. I'm like, yes, and I'm like, oh, his son is grown up now. I'm like, okay, whatever. Jonathan's back. No Ardeth Bay. I don't know how to pronounce his name. I'll just, no Oded Fair, which I'm like, oh, that's kind of a bummer. I wish they would have found some way to bring him back. And then we had Evie. I'm like, okay, Evie. Wait, you're not Evie. I'm like, where's Rachel Weisz? Where is she? Where'd you go, Rachel? Rachel, where'd you go? She is not in this movie. Instead, we have Mario Bello, who is not a bad actress, but she's just not that great compared to Rachel Weisz. The chemistry between her and Fraser, Mario Bell and Brendan. I mean, Brendan's trying. She's like, oh, I'm Evie. Ha, look at me, everyone. It's like, you're not as good. Uh, Give us Rachel again. I think it was because she was pregnant and they didn't want to wait for her. I'm like, you guys took like 6 or 7 years to make another movie, so I'm like, you might as well wait a bit longer. And besides, you might as well delay it a year, because you know what came out that year that really crushed this movie? Actually, to be fair, the movie I'm referring to killed this franchise and then killed another franchise. The Dark Knight came out that summer. I mean, the Mummy Tomb of the Dragon Emperor opened up like 3 weeks later. Still didn't make as much as the Dark Knight, because that movie just devoured everything. But, I love The Dark Knight, but it technically did kill two franchises I liked. It killed the chances of Hellboy 3, and it killed the chances of the Mummies. And now both movies series are being rebooted. So, love you, Dark Knight, but I'm like, at the same time, like, kind of upset that you destroyed the other franchise. But other topic for another day. So, anyways, what is the plot of this movie? So, the movie opens up. It's about this guy, the Dragon Emperor, played by Jet Li, and he wants to become immortal to rule the world. That's all you need to know. So we find that out in the flashback. We find out that there's like this Chinese lady played by Michelle Yeoh, and she had a thing with this like Jet Li's general, and Jet Li was pissed off about it, so he kills him. And then she's like, "Oh, I'm going to curse you. You may think you're immortal, but I'm going to curse you." So she curses him, and then he's gone for years until like his tomb is discovered by Alex O'Connell, the son of Evie and Rick. And remember the second movie where he's this, little British kid? Now he's an American for some reason. He drops his British accent completely. He's like, my dad is going to kick your little ass. And now he's like, hey, Professor, it's me, Alex O'Connell. I'm so cool. Look at me. I mean, granted, the actor's not terrible. He's just kind of like, he feels generic, I should say. He doesn't have the best comedic timing. He doesn't have that cool charisma and on-screen presence that Fraser and like Rachel Weisz had in like the first movie. And in terms of side characters in this movie, they're I mean, the first movie, let's see what else we had. We had Jonathan and that, who were like the supporting characters. We also had fucking Benny, who was just gold. God damn it, I miss Benny. I wish Benny didn't die so he could just appear in this movie. Anyways, so Alex and that on Arthur's tomb. The O'Connells, we find out, they're retired. They're living in their house in England, which was attacked in the second movie. And, there's some good scenes here about, like, Rick reminiscing. Like, you see him, like, when he walks in, you just see him, like, he looks at, like, some of his old, like, Egyptian stuff. You see his old garb. I'm like, like, it's just a subtle moment. Just, like, a moment where he pauses. Like, moments like that are cool because he's remembering, he's reflecting on his old days. And I like scenes like that. I like when they're reflecting on the old stuff and referencing, like, the other movies. That's cool and all. And yeah, so he's living a retired life. Like, this is after, like, what was it, World War II or something like that. We find out the O'Connells were actually, like, in the espionage business. And him and Evie are now, like, they miss the thrill of the hunt. You know what I mean? Their lives are no longer exciting. They decided, okay, after the war, we're going to be retired. We're going to be done with this stuff. We're just going to enjoy life. But they miss it. They miss the edge of it. They miss the excitement. Evie also has to write a book. She's also an author, and she wrote, like, 2 mummy books, which were very popular, I guess. And then she's like, oh, I'm going to write a 3rd book, but I'm not inspired anymore, blah, blah, blah. And then they get a call from, like, some British intelligence guy comes up to him. He's like, oh, I need you guys to take the Shangri-La to China, which is where Alex's mummy is, and also where Jonathan, their brother, has a nightclub. How convenient, I know. And one thing about, like, Jonathan's nightclub that's kind of cool is he named it Emotep's, based on the mummy. That was cool and all, I guess. So, anyways, they head there, and they all, like, meet up, and Alex has been having troubles with his dad, been having troubles with him, and then it turns out that whole thing was a setup to get the O'Connells to resurrect the Emperor, and they do. And then it's from there, it's like, they got to stop the Emperor. There's also Michelle Yeoh's character and her daughter, who falls in love with Alex, that forced romance stuff that doesn't feel organic at all. It doesn't have the charm or chemistry that, Rick and Evie had in the first 2 movies. Because the 3rd movie, like Rick and Evie, I mean, granted, we know their relationship because of the goodwill of the first 2, but it's just not as effective with a different actress. So, yeah, Alex falls for this, like, Chinese girl who's immortal, so she's, like, thousands of years older than him. And then, yeah, so they go on an adventure. They got to go stop the Emperor, who's also working with, like, some evil army or whatever, wants to use the Emperor and that to take over the world. Just like in the second movie, where we had that group of, like, Emotep worshippers who were like, oh, we need you to resurrect the army of Anubis and kill the Scorpion King so we can take over the world. This time we have the Emperor's army. Can you imagine if these guys, like, raise their armies at the same time? What would that be like? I wonder. Yeah, it's interesting how we have, like, Anubis and that existing with these Chinese things. I'm not sure how it all works. Maybe it's kind of like Indiana Jones, where, like, all sorts of, like, religions exist, and that's kind of like a fantasy world. But yeah, so that's cool, I guess. Anyways, they go on an adventure. They have to go to Shangri-La or whatever, or if Uncharted 2, think like Shambhala and that. I think it's Shangri-La. Yeah, Shangri-La or whatever. And along the way, they come across various creatures. My favorite thing in this movie, though, where the movie just jumps the shark completely, we have Yetis. That's right, we have Yetis in this movie, and Rick's like, abominable snowman! I'm like, okay. When this movie goes really ridiculous, it can be entertaining. We got, like, horses, like flaming horses or whatever, like these stone things. I'm like, when the movie goes crazy, it's kind of fun. I mean, that first action sequence when they're through China and stuff, that's neat. And, yeah, I'm losing my train of thought. Yeah, so they go from there, and then Emperor makes it to Shangri-La or whatever, and then he raises his army, he turns into a dragon, all these weird creatures and stuff, and then we have this big battle. One thing about this mummy, though, is he's not as imposing as Emotep. He's not that great of a villain, per se. He's not even that tough, really. Like, you can fight this guy, like, hand-to-hand combat, and you'll probably win. The only thing that he has a chance of is if he, like, shapeshifts and he, like, manipulates. He has control over the elements. He's not about strength. He's more of a trickster. So that's at least different, but he's not as intimidating as Emotep was. I guarantee if this guy fought Emotep, he'd get his ass kicked, like, instantly. So anyways, yeah, so in the end of the movie, we have this big epic battle or whatever, where, like, the army under the Great Wall of China is raised, the Emperor's army, and they start fighting each other. It's just a big CGI show fest. And Alex and Rick work together to kill the mummy. Alex goes off with that one Chinese girl he falls in love with. Her mom dies. The Emperor dies. Jonathan says he's going to Peru, which the movie later tells us, oh, there's going to be mummies there. And that's pretty much the gist of it. This movie, it's not even as funny as the first two. Like, there's this annoying thing every time there's, you know how, like, when scenes like, oh, we're doing one thing, and then it's like, you hear the record skip? There's at least 4 record skips in this movie. It's like, I could inspire you, honey. And she's like, no. I don't know how to do a record. Ricka, what? Or whatever. Stupid record mix sound effects, like, to excuse for the comedy. Or, like, a character does something, and then it's an embarrassing moment. Uh-oh, guess what that is? Record skip. Every single time. And it just takes away from the movie. It also doesn't feel as epic as the first two. Despite the fact that there's a giant army there, you don't feel the scale. You're just not as maybe it's because I'm just not as invested. I don't know what it exactly is. It's just I mean, I don't hate this movie, but it just doesn't leave as good of an impact as the first two films. And it's kind of sucks that we never got a fourth one, but at the same time, it's like, let the series rest, and then we'll just let it be. I try to remember the goodwill of the first two films, at least the first movie and a half, and then, like, kind of forget about the CGI Scorpion King. But even then, I still enjoyed The Mummy Returns more than this movie. You know, it has its sense of fun. There's a sense of adventure. This movie has some of that, but it's really missing something. And I think because it's a different creative team. I mean, Steven Sommers still produced this movie, but he didn't write it. He didn't direct it. Honestly, I kind of wish he would have come back to write and direct it. Now, Steven Sommers isn't the best director in the world. He's made some bad movies. He made fucking G.I. Joe, The Rise of Cobra, which is a terrible movie. And he made Van Helsing, which is kind of a guilty pleasure, but it's still not very good. It's a CGI shit show. Shit show, for the most part. Yeah, that's interesting. Why? Actually, that would have been a good chance. The Universal, I know they're doing the Dark Universe now, but they missed a big opportunity. They could have crossed over the Mummy series with the Van Helsing series and created a cool, cohesive universe of films. But I guess we're never going to see that. So, yeah, that kind of sucks. Anyways, that's all I really have to say about The Mummy 2 and the Dragon Emperor. Not sure why Alex speaks American. Bad Guy's not as good, but Brendan Fraser is still cool. John Hamm is still cool. Jonathan's still good. Rick O'Connell, Brendan Fraser's great, as usual. And I think 2008 was his last big year. This is the end of the Mummies franchise. I mean, they're rebooting it and all, but I don't know how the new one's going to be. It could be good, it could be shitty, but part of me doesn't think it's going to live up to my expectations. So I'm going in really low expectations so I can be surprised. I hope it's really good. I hope it's successful, because the Universal Monsters was what introduced me to horror. I have, like, that whole 30 film collection or whatever, and I watched all of them. And I just really love them. I remember having them on VHS, just embracing the classics. So here's hoping that the Tom Cruise Mummy movie is good. And if you get the chance, I guess if you want to, just for completion purposes, check out Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. I was kind of bored watching some of it, but there was still some neat stuff in there. It's not, like I said, not a terrible movie, but not that great either. If you do yourself a favor, you can probably skip this one and just go back to watching the first two. At least the first one for sure, because the first one's still a really solid movie and just entertaining the whole way through. And yeah, that's going to conclude this episode of After the Movie. Be sure to come back tomorrow as I go ahead and talk about The Mummy with Tom Cruise. I can't wait to hear that fucking scream in the theater, because go back and watch those trailers. That goddamn Tom Cruise scream is what sold me on this movie. I mean, it's amazing. But yeah, I'm getting off track. So yeah, Mummy 3, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. I can see why this one's considered the worst. It's not that great. It's just okay. But yeah, thanks for watching. Like I said, excuse the quality, I guess, for some of these unscripted reviews. My mind tends to wander. But the more I do, the more comfortable I get, and the better I think I'll end up making them. But yeah, more stuff to come for this channel, including the Mummy review tomorrow. Peace the fuck out. Actually, no, don't peace the fuck out. Have a great day, everybody. Booga booga.